Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of our program. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Caroline Greene, who is the founder of Caroline Greene Coaching. Welcome to the program, Caroline.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Hey, so obviously in your business name, Caroline Greene Coaching, you do coaching. So tell us your background, what led you to that, and what type of coaching. Are you a basketball coach? Are you a life coach? So kind of give us a little bit of a picture of who you help.
Yeah, I'm a life and business coach who focuses primarily on helping moms figure out what really matters to them in both their personal and professional lives. So I do both life and business coaching, and the how I got here is a huge part of who I am and what I do and why I help the people that I help, because I am actually trained as a lawyer. So I grew up with a very sort of typical American dream type definition of success: get the best education you can, learn as much as you can, work as hard as you possibly can, and succeed in sort of very traditional ways. And so I went to, I was the first in my family to go to boarding school, first in my family to go to an Ivy League college, ended up at a top 10 law school, and literally all of those decisions were driven by what's the best school that I can get into. I literally went almost exclusively by rankings. It was a little more realistic than that, but honestly not much, right?
So you were a snob.
I was a total snob. Yeah, education snob. And, I was a total snob in lots of ways. And I really had this very narrow definition of what success looked like. And, So I got out in the world, and I had this job that was at the best law firm in DC where I worked, and really sort of had arrived at the end of this train, right? It felt like, as a young professional person, I was just newly married, and all of a sudden I felt this call in my heart, like I want to be doing more with my gifts and talents every day than just sitting behind a desk, working for someone that, it's not that I minded working for someone really, but it just, the work was out of alignment with what with what my gifts and talents were. And so I went off to prosecute, thinking that that was a way that I could love and serve people. And that felt even worse for me personally. So much respect for prosecutors and law enforcement. But for me, it was just another example of being out of alignment, and really struggled trying to find my way in a way that was authentic and in alignment for me. I'm happy to share more about my journey, but that's sort of where I started and where I headed. And here I am now, sort of helping women struggle through those same issues throughout their personal and professional journey.
Well, it's interesting that you didn't say, I did all that, now I help men who are looking for, so you are, kind of reaching back and giving a hand up to people that are in or going through the same situation you did, which is so genuine, because been there, done that, and got the T-shirt, right?
Yeah, totally. And, even more so, the reason that I focus on moms is a huge part of coming out of that space for me was having children, because all of these feelings of being out of alignment, after I prosecuted, I ended up just going back to a firm, because honestly, I literally turned to my husband and said, if I am going to be out of alignment, I'm going to make money doing it so that I can steward that money well. That was really, I was like, and while I figure this out, I know there's a plan, but I don't know what it is. So I'm just going to go back to a firm. And so while I was there, then I had kids, and kids got thrown in the mix. And then with my second child, I actually struggled with postpartum depression, and that got thrown in the mix. And there's nothing like a season of deep darkness in your life to really hold you accountable to what you want and what you're being called to. And so those experiences, not just as a professional, but as a professional who really lost my identity as in terms of who I was and what I really wanted when I became a mother, and struggling with all of these different questions about what kind of person and mother and parent and professional I wanted to be. And so, that's really where my heart is. And that's really where I've my business has thrived, and my personal satisfaction, professional satisfaction has been its deepest.
Well, it comes through just even in your mannerisms and your voicing, so I can just tell that you're passionate about that. And it's really interesting because it's not a isolated problem. probably if you did a poll, and there's probably studies out there that's, massive number of people they're just grinding away and just keep their head down. They don't know what they want, and they want something more, but they don't know what they want. And in fact, for the last 15 years, I've taught the college and career Sunday school class at our church. And this past year was the first, my kids are all tweens and teens, and so my oldest daughter just entered college, and it's like, hey, she moved into the class. And I thought, what a great time to do this study that I've gone through a couple times, and it's called Blueprint for Life, and it's really a wonderful study because it talks about, what's your blueprint for life? But it goes through some of these things to go, your life is not meant to just be out of balance in let's strive and do this job thing and make it really good, because you've got personal relationships, financial, physical, spiritual. You've got all of these legs. And so what would you say is to someone that says, I don't even know what I want? So where do you tell them to start?
Well, I have deep compassion for this question, because when I really started this journey, I don't think I even really knew what my favorite color was. Let alone what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I had a pink room growing up. So if you asked me and I didn't pick that color, my mother picked that color for me, so if you asked me what my favorite color was, I would say pink. And it really wasn't until my adulthood that I even took the time to step back and ask myself,
sure,
is that, everything from the clothes that I was wearing to the neighborhood I was living in to all of these choices that sort of just stem and overflow largely from however it is, what's driving the engine, what path have we picked in that narrow, blind way that gets us through our young adulthood years. And normally it's something that may not be authentic to us. So the question of where to start is always right where you are. Start right where you are and really just start being honest with yourself, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your personal life, to take that holistic assessment of what is going on in the present. Where are you happy? Where are you not? Where are you joyful and contented, which is very different than happiness? And where are you not? Where are you struggling? And really start asking yourself to just notice what's already happening and what information is already being revealed to you that you may not be able to see because, as you said, striving, that hustle and bustle, we're always moving so fast to the next thing, often the next right thing in quotes, right, without really stopping to say, where are we now and where do we really want to be going in the future?
Yeah, and I think that is not just a fill-in-the-blank, check-the-box off kind of a response. I think that a lot of people think, I'm going to download my, business plan, my life plan, my whatever plan, and I'm going to go through it while I'm watching TV and answering some text. And it's like, check, check, check. Yep, did that. I still don't feel anything. Well, you didn't because you're not really present or paying attention to what you really want.
Yeah, and in order to be present to what we really want, we have to stop long enough, right? And one of the things that you just picked up on is we live in such a multitasking world that we sort of think that huge things like intention, purpose, presence, fulfillment can be multitasked alongside of other things, almost like a healthy diet, right? And we spend so much time looking for, I call it checklist living, right? And this is true in our faith communities, this is true in our businesses, this is true in our schools and in our neighborhoods, that if we just get the right checklist, the right 10 steps, then everything's going to be okay, right? Then we won't feel the way we're feeling, or then we're going to have succeeded the way we want to have succeeded. And the truth is that, and I love the name of the study you mentioned, A Blueprint for Life. It's like, of course we can make a plan. Of course we can set an intention, but somebody else can't prescribe it for you. Somebody else can't just tell you, here are the quick fixes to get your business where you want it to be or to get your life where you want it to be. You actually have to show up and do that hard work for yourself. And that's a really scary and often overwhelming process for a lot of people who've never been asked to really be still with themselves and really dig into what it is they want.
Yeah, that's huge. And it's kind of like the old saying, knowledge is power, is really a fallacy because knowledge is potential power, because you could go to a weekend seminar and find out all these things and spend the time and be free from distractions and go, yeah, here's my life plan and then you put it on the shelf or, save it on your computer and then don't do anything with it. You got to get out there and do something. And like you said about being overwhelming, that might be the case if you look at the whole thing. That might be a 3 to 5 year plan and you're thinking about fitting it in tomorrow. But if you look at it and kind of do the Stephen Covey begin with the end in mind concept and go, well, to get there, I need to start with this little baby step and this little teeny, and I can do that piece. And then when you get there, it's like, well, I can do that piece. So where do you then can counsel people or coach people to say, first we got to get that big old picture, but then how do you take that first step? Where's that process of don't do too much too soon because then you'll get overwhelmed?
Yeah, so I actually created there's so many great planning tools out there. This one is just the one that works well for me. And what I love is to get that end in mind, but especially if you're in a vulnerable transition state, if a lot of things are going on in your life, to only pick a year ahead. You may want to set the 5 or 3 year intention if you have clarity on what that is, but if that's too overwhelming, if you're like, I have no idea where I want to be in 5 years, I just know I can't be here a year from now, right? Like I just have to get moving, then to set that 1 year intention and then to work backwards, actually. Mm-hmm. So if this is where you want to be in a year, where do I have to be in the third quarter of that year in order to reach that year-end goal? Yeah. Second quarter, third quarter, first quarter. And what that does is it works our brain against the resistance that comes up when our mind, our linear thinking mind, really wants to forge ahead and really helps open up, okay, these are the actual real benchmarks. Like I think I need a website or a new business card, or I think I need to whatever it is. And it's like, actually, is that what I really need in order to make this progress that I've set out for myself a year? It actually, most likely not, right? It's really something else. We need to put ourselves out there. We need to make meaningful contact with real people in meaningful ways. There are all these other things that we can be doing that really get to the heart of what we want to accomplish. And then
because go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say to that point, like in a sales environment, if you said in 1 year I want to have X dollar number of sales or whatever rank, okay, there's my goal. It's attainable. I can believe that. And one of the books I wrote is called Believing Your Why, which is having a why behind your goals, but not only that, but believing it. It can't be out of whack. You can't sell 100,000 in sales last year and have your goal of 248 million. It's just, you're not going to believe it. But when you work backwards and go, okay, well, to get to that sales goal, I need to have done this many, sales presentations, but because I know that I'm going to close this many percentages. Well, to get that many presentations, I need to make this many calls or this many meetings or this many. Oh, well, that means that tomorrow I need to reach out to 4 meeting planners and see if I can get on the ticket to speak. I can do that. And it kind of goes, oh, well, yeah, that feels attainable.
Absolutely. And, I love that you bring up, of course, your why and your what are so important. And it's really, as someone who transitioned from a different career, who was in an entrepreneurial mindset, really didn't know much about business or entrepreneurialism at all, just that fundamental realization, I need to know what I'm doing and I need to know why I'm doing it. Those basic things that we can so easily overlook, and then digging beneath that, not just what I think I should be doing and why I think I should be doing it, right? So it's not just a why that's attainable in terms of it being believable, but also something that you can really get behind with authenticity and integrity. That this is something that's important to you, that you want in a deep way beyond the dollars and cents. Because when you hit those hard days and you hit that resistance and you need to make those phone calls and you don't, everything in your head's telling you not to get on the phone, you need to be able to connect with that something that's going to push you through that resistance in a meaningful way to help you moving forward towards those goals. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is by a theologian named G.K. Chesterton. And what he said is, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. And so when it comes to, that for me is someone who is so perfectionistic, so results-oriented, and as you pointed out, such a performance snob, the elitism and the prestige of what it meant to succeed. When I first read that quote, I laughed out loud. I was like, there's nothing in my life that would be worth doing badly because I make strategic decisions to do things well, right? Like I get A's, I take jobs that I can excel in. I wasn't open to that vulnerability of being willing to do things badly. And so it really helped form a foundation for shifting my perspective to that first step is, if I'm not willing to do this badly, then I haven't found an objective a year out that I'm really willing to fight for. Because if I'm not willing to sacrifice the vulnerability, if I'm not willing to put myself on the line, there's no way that I care about that goal enough. Because if you tell me, whatever, something that affects my children or something that affects my family, and the first thing my child's sick, the first thing I have to do is call the doctor, and I'm like, I don't really want to get on the phone, right? Like, of course I'm going to get on the phone because the outcome matters to me in a really significant way.
But if you're that salesperson and you're like, oh, I got to get on the phone and make cold calls, not many people love that. You've got to have that why pulling you, that goal pulling you. So from a ethical standpoint and a faith-based standpoint, here's the question. When you're in entrepreneurship, business owner, sales, whatever you want to call, whatever you want to use this example as, there are key performance indicators. There are goals. There are metrics that you need to hit your numbers. And then the question is, there's going to be a time where the thought crosses your mind of bending, being in the gray area, cutting corners. So from an ethical standpoint, that's not right. But where does that then tie into doing your highest and best from a faith-based standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's a multifaceted question. And the first thing I would say is fundamentally, regardless of any performance objectives, it's just you in the mirror at the end of the day. Right? Like, it's just you and your God, if you believe in God, which I do. And to even begin to allow to say, and now, of course, it happens, right? I'm not trying to say, like, we're all perfect. We're all far from perfect, and we all get into these situations where we've crossed some line that we never intended to cross. But to really, to say that there's a metric on a piece of paper that's going to drive a decision outside of our integrity, I think that we really have to question why we're in that job in the first place and what we're doing there, because if we're willing, because our job is then not in alignment with our deeper why, our deeper purpose, our deeper calling. And if we're so fixated on the numbers that we're willing to manipulate, as if all of this stuff sort of, in the world is in the world, and so it doesn't really matter, we can sort of manipulate things, then we've lost that deep connection that we were created to live in the world and be not of it. But we're in it. Like, our hands are in it, everything we touch is in it. And so there just can't be that distance, I would say. Like, that would really give me some pause for reflection about how I'm defining my deeper why, and whether or not I've divided the why of the world versus the why of God in a way that's inauthentic, in a way that's very worldly. I mean, we do it all the time. People do it all the time. They have their faith on Sundays, and then they show up as a totally different human being in their marriages or their jobs, and that's nothing to be ashamed of in the sense of it's a reality, right? So we can accept it and extend compassion for what it is, but I think it certainly calls in for some authenticity. And then the other half of this for me is, when you're in that situation where you've got these metrics that don't align with you, there are ways to create a mindset that aligns with what is important to you. So the classic example I use is, if you're the main provider for your family, and providing for your family at a certain level is a fundamental core value for you, if you want to have food on the table, you want to be able to put a roof over their heads, or what you want to be able to send them to X school, like whatever that line is for you. And in order to do that, then you need to make X number of sales. There is a way to set that up so that it's all in alignment with what you really want and who you're truly called to be as a human being and as a part of a larger business, right? So it's not like, if you feel like that out of alignment, like these sales metrics mean nothing to me, like these 12 calls mean nothing to me, then really that's a time to step back and say, yeah, but this bonus does mean something to me, because this is what that bonus means in the world. This is where I can give that money away. This is where I can help other people. This is where I can serve my family. Those things matter to me. And again, using those tools that we were talking about, making that your end game and working back from that, all of a sudden imbibes those 4 sales calls you have to do in the next hour with a sense of meaning and purpose that they didn't have 30 minutes before.
Sure. Well, for someone listening to this feeling like it's time for them to make a change, and maybe even desiring to build a life that truly, really matters to them, what's the best way that they can learn more about your coaching program and reach out and connect with you? So many of us, I'm online at CarolineGreene.com, and my email is Caroline@CarolineGreene.com.
Caroline Greene with an ecoaching.com. And I welcome people to reach out with questions or comments with things that resonated with them. And then also for anyone who's interested, I've written 2 books about my journey. One is Matter, How to Find Meaningful Work That's Right for You and Your Family, and Next, How to Start a Successful Business That's Right for You and Your Family. And they're written from a mom's perspective for moms, but I hope that the wisdom in them applies to anyone who might pick up the book. And if any of your listeners are interested in getting a copy of one of those books, they can email me at Caroline@CarolineGreene with an ecoaching.com and just put free book in the subject line, and we'll get a copy out to them.
Excellent. Love it. Love your energy. Love chatting with you today. So thank you so much for your time, Caroline.
It's my absolute pleasure, and thanks for all that you do to help serve and support other business owners.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.